You're watching the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Now it's time for the Brent Austen Show.
Hey, welcome in on a Monday, and ho-hum, another Jags loss. So we got that going for us here in Jacksonville. That's good for you draft folks. If you like that, what a perfect day. The perfect day for some Jags fans. Is an entertaining game. Brian Thomas Jr. And a loss. Jags are now picking in the top 5 once again. So there you go. Brent Martineau, Austin Lane, Casey Kurtz sitting in today. Jason Hamby gone for a couple of days, back probably midweek. We've got our last full week of 2024 here on the show. How about that? We got Christmas and the New Year's right after that. I have no emotion out of the Jags losses anymore.
I'm just ready to get. I'm ready to get the shock your mock. To tell you the truth.
Yeah, let's go.
I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. Thanks for the fantasy help, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you a lot, man. Couldn't have won it without you. But yeah, I'm ready for shock your mock.
Yeah, it's. I was thinking of this coming in today, and I did a whole post-game show, did another half-hour show yesterday, sat through this game, and obviously you talk about it and you figure some things out, and you're like, okay, how are we breaking this down? I've said this for weeks now. The storylines are kind of empty outside of like Brian Thomas Jr. and a couple of things. I did say the offensive line storyline is an interesting one, and I think it's kind of a hidden one because I think they're playing pretty good again. And I think that might be something that's kind of cool or good or something at least. But it kind of was lost on me in the whole totality of the game just how bad it was that the Jags gave up 2 touchdowns in the final 4 minutes. Like I didn't even realize that because it was somewhat of an entertaining game. Jags scored in the fourth quarter to take the lead, 22-17, and then you're like, all right. And I think it was under 4 minutes to go when they threw the 71-yarder.
Yeah.
And then they go, down the field and tie it up with a field goal, but too fast because they give the ball right back to the Jets who come down and score. I mean, there was a lot that went on in the final 4 minutes. That was a short amount of time where the Jags actually had 2 opportunities to score, and the Jets did score twice. 2 offenses that have sucked, basically, most of the year.
No, it was an offensive explosion. It was a fantasy-friendly game, and it wasn't necessarily like a defensive showcase by any means. So if you like offense, if you like scoring points, if you like fantasy football, it was probably the game for you. And that, like you alluded to start the show out, if you liked draft position, it was also the game for you. But obviously, a loss is a loss, and you know how I feel about it. I would much rather win, despite people wanting Travis Hunter and watching this team use him in the wrong way. I would much rather have this team win.
Yeah, I don't care about Travis Hunter and the draft either. I'm with you. At this time, I'm with you. I mean, I wasn't on the Trevor stuff way back, but I was definitely,
we know.
Definitely, I get that now, too. I think there are other reasons why. But, again, hey, you know what another hidden thing about yesterday's game is in the big picture? And I mean, this has hit such a quiet spot in terms of emotion that I don't even think people are really talking about Balky and Peterson as much, or at least with the intensity, because it's kind of just hit, even that's hit a little bit of a lull. It's like just wait and see. You got to wait and see for like 3 weeks from today, right? What's going to happen? And I think part of this storyline, which again hit me yesterday, is they're 1-5 at home. I mean, they're 1-5 at home in Jacksonville. They were really 2-5 because of the London game, but they're 1-5 in Jacksonville. Last year, they were 3-5 in Jacksonville. I mean, Doug Peterson, Trent Baalke, this football team can't win in Jacksonville. And that's a problem.
They can't really win in general.
Well, they can't, but you can't even win in Jacksonville. You can't.
Sure.
It's one thing to lose on the road.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can't even win at home against okay teams. Like that would bother me a lot if I'm Shad Khan, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, it would. Like, I wasn't at the game yesterday. I assume it was pretty
okay.
low-key.
I mean, it was what you would expect.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So, like, you know, I mean, you saw, I mean, you think of some teams, you think of, like, the Chiefs, you think of Buffalo, where, you know, if you go, there's obviously a lot of excitement right now, right? There's obviously a lot of intrigue, and teams are trying to make a playoff push. Like, you know, those crowds can almost give you an advantage. But, you know, when you're on when you win 3 games in a season so far and you're not really achieving any kind of expectations, there's really going to be no energy. And when you don't make a change and you say, hey, this is kind of unacceptable, at least we're going to try to do something differently, And maybe you did make a change. Maybe Doug Peterson's calling the plays now. It looks like he is. Offense looks better. Mac Jones got a little more confidence, but there's a couple times where I'm like, what are you doing? Maybe there's some change, but it's not enough to have the fan base buy in and say, hey, let's go out there, spend some money, and cheer our asses off with this team.
No, I mean, again, it's not really about the crowd. It's just back that they can't win in the 904. I mean, they can't win in their home stadium. They can't win. And there's been plenty of opportunities to win in Jacksonville. Even last year when they got off to a good start, they weren't winning in Jacksonville. That's unusual, right? I mean, if I have a decent team, again, the roster, blah, 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 all this stuff, you'd find ways to win in your home field, on your home field. You're supposed to have a home field advantage. The crowd up until yesterday has been really good most of the year. Even a couple weeks ago when they played, we were surprised by the crowd that was there, I thought, against the Texans. And it's just another thing, right? I'm trying to now, it's almost like state the case. And the case is, okay, what do you got, Trent? And what do you got, Doug, when you go to the office with Shad and you're having these meetings? All right, Shad, what do you got? What are you collecting data on? And certainly not collecting it from probably our show and social media, or you'd already have made up your mind. And maybe he's already made up his mind. But in the reality of it, where are these things coming into play? And if I'm the owner of the football team, I'm bothered by the fact that they are 4-10 on the home field with this roster the last 2 years. That is embarrassing. And again, losing to some pretty mediocre teams, to some pedestrian teams along the way. I've got some X's and O's questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
We don't just see it in Jacksonville that linebackers are on receivers, but you can see it in other teams. The Jags, sometimes there are teams that play a linebacker on Brian Thomas Jr. in their defense.
Sure.
Because
when he's on the slot. Which, by the way, moving him around a lot now, by the way.
Moving him a lot, which, again, good. Finally, 14 weeks later, right? Good.
But, yeah, I mean, I think it says a lot, though, because this is a guy who said he can only fly the go route. He can only be an X receiver. Well, this guy is being featured in numerous ways and numerous motions, also out of the slot. I think and listen, this is a first-year guy. This guy is still learning on the fly how to be professional. And the fact yesterday we saw him showcased in exotic looks, motions, formations, that's my biggest takeaway yesterday of things for the future is, hey, at least Brian Thomas Jr. appears to be the real deal. Yeah,
we're going to get to that in just a moment. But why? I'm trying to think about the bust plays. I'm trying to think about the line. See, I do give credit to Aaron Rodgers. Everybody's all over Devin Lloyd all season long. I think we've had this conversation. I think more people say Devin Lloyd's playing a little bit better than you think, but then you see him in these kind of moments. You see him in the passing game, he's not very good. And neither is Ventrell Miller, by the way. The linebackers are at a disadvantage. It's a hard position to play in the passing game. And if you get exposed and match up, you really get exposed and matched up on. And it happened again. How much of this was Aaron Rodgers getting them in a set? If you read the postgame comments of Rodgers and Davante Adams, this goes back to a route kind of combination that they've had since 2019 under Matt LaFleur. And basically it's a choice kind of route where Adams, whatever. I'm not going to get too technical, so I don't even understand it. But he kind of reads it.
It's a wide receiver option.
And so, Aaron Rodgers saw that. He said he held on to it a little bit longer. The safeties got wide. Boom, they beat him down the middle of the field. My question in that spot is, okay, that's somewhat normal probably because Rodgers and Adams are so veteran and savvy and work together. They did that. They made a nice call. But I would also say, you're up 5 with 4 minutes to go. How do you let anything behind you if you're the safeties? How are you wide enough to let anything down the middle of the field to beat you? Am I making this too easy? How is Devin Lloyd put in that spot, and then the Jags are put in that spot that they can actually get beat on a 71-yard pass up by 5 with 4 minutes to go?
Well, for Davante Adams, it was super easy because it's a wide receiver option play. So either you're going to break it off around 12 yards, pass, because it was second down and 10?
Feels like it.
Okay, so it was second and long.
It wasn't the first
because I think they had an incompletion the first. Yeah. So second and long, whatever. Usually you're going to break that route off, at 10, 11 yards and get a first down. Davante Adams can push the field. Great. So it's a wide receiver option. So either he breaks it off at 10 or 11 if he feels threatened with, they're taking away the deep ball, or if he sees it's wide open, just run a go route. Aaron Rodgers saw it. Davante Adams saw it because he didn't feel any kind of pressure whatsoever where, hey, they're not going to threaten me with the go. Okay, let me take the go route. Took the go route. Obviously, a miscommunication with the safety and the linebacker because he got off scot-free. And it was like that. It was just too easy. I mean, it's pitch and catch in the backyard at the end of the day. So Lloyd's got to threaten like, hey, if you're going to break that off at the first down marker, I'm here. I got you. And the safety, get as deep as the deepest. Simple as that. This is elementary coverage.
So who is at fault here? Like everybody said, look, Devin Lloyd's horrendous. It looks
bad on Devin Lloyd because his back's turned trying to keep up with Davante Adams, and guess what? That's not going to happen.
Nobody is, though.
Yeah.
At the linebacker
But also,
spot
if you're Savage, get as deep as the deepest. So let's ask ourselves the question, why was Savage's back turned?
Yeah.
Isn't he the free safety? Isn't he the center fielder?
Well, him or Cisco on the play, right? I mean, they were both kind of converged late, right?
Yeah.
So they were around him, but
so here's the thing: if your center fielder has their back turned trying to chase Davante Adams, they're probably a little bit at fault as well.
Okay, and then so how much of this is on Nielsen? Because at this time of the game, let me just ask you. This is like a very elementary question, but I was sitting there in the press box, and I'm like, why don't they? Lloyd's bad in coverage. This could be the final possession of the football game for Aaron Rodgers in this offense. They need a touchdown. Mm-hmm. So why can't you then go into almost that Minnesota-style defense where you played that cloud coverage stuff and keep everything in front of you? Like the only thing you can't have happen is they're not driving for a field goal. You can't have happen that. So why wouldn't you then, as a play caller, as a defensive coordinator, kind of convert into this, not prevent, but a little bit more of, hey, we're not going to get beat deep.
Yeah, listen, hindsight's 20/20.
Is that really hindsight needed?
Well, when Braylon Allen's on the field, absolutely. Braylon Allen ran a wheel route. How many? I mean, I have no idea. I haven't watched a lot of New York Jets football. Sorry. How many receptions does Braylon Allen have?
Probably not much.
It's Breece Hall.
Yeah.
Right. So when you have Braylon Allen in the backfield, it looks like it could be a run because you have tight bunch. So, okay, they're going to stay in and block. Like, I thought it was going to be a run. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, yeah, it's 2nd and 10. You got to be a little more leery about it. But I see Braylon Allen. I see a tight bunch. Okay, probably going to be a run here. And maybe that's what Ryan Nielsen thought too. Maybe that's what Devin Lloyd thought too. Foy Lukin's got to take Braylon out of the backfield. Once again, I mean, how much of a threat was he really? Probably not, but you got to respect it because if you don't take him, he's going to be wide open, and that's how it opens up. So sometimes it comes down to an offensive coordinator saying, hey, let's go ahead and show this look, but let's go ahead and throw a wrinkle at that. And that's what I think that play was yesterday because I'll be honest. I saw it. I remember. I thought it was going to be a run. I'm like, oh, here comes Braylon Allen again. Probably going to be a run.
But you can give up a run in that spot is my point. You can't give up a 71-yarder.
No, I hear you.
So any defense that could allow a run play for 12 yards is fine.
No, for sure.
If you're taking the two, bad situations, I mean,
I'm not trying to make up excuses for this defense because I'm not making up excuses. But as a defense, there are tendencies.
I get that.
There are keys. And sometimes you use those tendencies and keys to try to cheat a little bit. Casey Kurtz, right on the money. Here we go. So we got Braylon, I think that's Braylon Allen right there, right above it says 2nd and 10.
Yeah.
That's him running essentially like a go route. So Foy Lukin's got to take that, and that opens up Adams as well. Once again, is Braylon Allen a threat as a wide receiver or a receiving back? Not so much, but it was a wrinkle, and you got to respect it.
Yeah, the other thing I thought about, and what you just said doesn't make as much sense at this part of the field for me, but it's like, if Devin Lloyd is so bad in coverage, couldn't you have thrown like a third safety on the field in this spot, knowing that they're going to be passing most of the time with 3.5 minutes to go in the football game? I mean, there is still a lot of time right there, so I get it. You can still run your regular offense. Like, we're not just talking a minute and a half to go. Mm-hmm. But, we know this. Devin Lloyd gets exposed in coverage. We know this.
Yeah, but once again, I get where we're getting over Lloyd here, but we got to get on the safety as well.
No,
Why is the safety helping out Braylon Allen not helping out Devontae Adams.
Yeah. No. I think I think there's a lot of blame. I'm more from the. I feel like this goes back to coaching too, though. That's my point. Like, right? I you have not been good at that safety spot all year. Protect them. Help them out a little bit. Why are you trusting them to do this in this spot? I mean, you can go back to the start of the year against the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Like, this has not changed. Here we are in week 14. Again, Aaron Rodgers is brilliant. I think you give him a lot of credit. I thought he played really well in this football game. I think he gets you in spots because this is a young and not as smart defense because they are young in spots. Foye-Oluokun said their communication was good on both that play and the Devontae Adams play, which is at the top. It was a good play there, even by Aaron Rodgers, because Lloyd then comes with Aaron Rodgers as he starts to scamper out to the right, and he's all alone up top. But why put you, first of all, defensively in a situation where you could even give up that 71-yard play? And then I also think, why put Lloyd in a situation where he's got to make these decisions because he's porous at it? He just hasn't been good all year in this spot.
Sure. So this is money. Casey, I know I'm asking a lot of you, man. We're kind of going on the fly here, but I like this. Do you mind pulling up the other slide again where we kind of had Allen go on that go route a little bit, if you can?
Give me a second.
Yeah, no problem. Because what I want to talk about is this. Yes, Lloyd's got to be better. Yes, Lloyd can try to stay with Devontae Adams a little more and carry him. But at the end of the day, the backside of Savage, if you go over this play, I believe Braylon Allen's the second deepest guy here. So obviously, Adams is the threat. Braylon Allen's the second deepest guy. Savage, who I believe is the back safety here, the center fielder, is threatened more by the second deepest guy than he is Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
So his eyes go to Braylon Allen. Now, maybe this was Devontae Adams knowing Savage. Maybe he's been on this play before with the Packers and whatever the case may be. But I'm looking at Braylon Allen's stats here. And, keep in mind, Breece Hall has been out for a lot of the season, some of the season, so he kind of took over for a little bit. I mean, yeah, he's had a 4-reception game, a 2-reception game, but look at Braylon Allen's stats in terms of receptions per game, okay? The guy's not necessarily really a target monster, especially on the deep ball. So when you have your safety, once again, because you have to make everybody right, and this is an example of it. Did Devin Lloyd do a bad job? Yeah, probably got stuck with him a little more. But great teams have the athletes, have the players to help each other out right here. Perfect, Casey. Thank you, man. So we see right here, Braylon Allen's going to take this straight up, okay? If you look at the 2nd and 10, he's right on the 1. Braylon Allen keeps going straight up, and then I forgot who the other guy is next to him. He's going to break it off a little bit, so number 30's got to take him. So he just runs essentially a wheel that turns into a go. Savage sees this and goes, you know what? I'm going to go and take Braylon Allen and cheat a little bit because I think the go route is going to go to Braylon Allen. He hesitates. Adams gets open, and there you go. So, yes, I get Devin Lloyd not put in a good position, but also just the fundamentals of defense say you got to stay deep as the deepest and don't take the cheese, if you will, that is Braylon Allen trying to run this wheel to a go route.
Yeah, I really, on the blame game on this, I blame the safety. I probably blame Ryan Nielsen the most. I blame the safeties because they are who they are and they've stunk all year. And then I blame Devin Lloyd. I don't think Devin Lloyd should be covering Devontae Adams and asked to stop him 50 yards down the field. Maybe he could have done a little bit better, but that ain't on him. I almost don't even want him in the game in this spot. So he got exposed twice in the final 4 minutes because that's what a great quarterback does. And Rodgers, an experienced quarterback, he beat him with the mind a little bit. I just feel like, again, I get out of the X's and O's part of football. I'm almost like, hey, give me a third safety or another corner in this spot because they're not really leaning on the run in these situations. But I just feel like they lose every chess match. They lose every chess match. I mean, they got beat by the Green Bay Packers and Malik Willis. They got outsmarted by Malik Willis and the Green Bay Packers. Malik Willis about a month and a half ago. I know it was some LaFleur, but it was really Malik Willis who kind of made that call and that look and everything else, and he beat them late in the game. I mean, so it must be a Packers thing, man, from freaking Malik Willis and LaFleur basically LaFleur beat him twice this year. It's just, when's the last time you thought, the only time I thought this year that the Jags won the chess match on defense was against Minnesota. They finally freaking changed. And they clouded it, and that was the better defense to play against Darnold. He threw 3 picks, and by the way, they were on the field for 40-something minutes that game.
I'm gonna say Minnesota and Philly as well.
In Philly, they did a pretty good job too.
I mean, they're the only team to really figure out the tush push.
Yeah.
So I mean, if Ryan Nielsen wants to, do a book tour and do a TED talk about how to stop the tush push, because I watched Jalen Hurts yesterday, have no issues.
I mean, listen, I guess I have more emotion left in me than I thought I did, but I'm just.
But see, this is. I mean, this is Ryan Nielsen. This is lack of preparation. Call it whatever you want to call it, but this comes down to, I think, in totality, what we've seen all year is players aren't making each other right.
Yeah,
players aren't having each other's backs.
I get that.
Not everyone's on the same page, and it starts from the top and it echoes down to the bottom. This one play right here is a microcosm what the entire season's been the entire year. But we can come in here, we keep on breaking it down, same stuff every single week. That's fine. But it's nothing changed. I'm not surprised. I will be surprised that the offense scores as much points as they did. That was a pleasant surprise. But I'm not surprised of Adams taking the game, and winning it for him. I'm not surprised of some of the breakdowns. I'm not surprised of some of the questionable things on offense. I'm not surprised. This is who they are. This is their identity. You're not going to shake it now when you're over 10 games in the season.
Yeah, I know. I just think sometimes it jumps out at you a little bit more, especially when you're playing a team that's kind of your equal. It's one thing. The Packers are a really good football team.
Correct.
So what they're doing and everything else, even just a hang in that game felt like a win.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So same with the Eagles or something like that, or the Dolphins earlier this year. There are good signs of this, but I mean, I don't know what that is on the culture side of things, guys. I don't know why you play complementary football to some degree and then you don't. This year they haven't. Their offense, in my opinion, outside of the last pick, the first pick was fine by the Mac. The last pick, I thought that was their best offensive game of the year. I really thought that was their best game of the year.
Yeah.
What they did. I thought the coaching staff did a great job outside of 2 second down run plays that I was complaining about. I thought all the things you just said about Brian Thomas Jr., what they did, how they worked with Mac, how they got success in the third down situations, all these things were really good. And they felt like that was the offensive scheme and the offensive play calling that at times you go back to the first year and a half of Doug and Press that it looked like. It was they got a little something. And if you go back to last week against Tennessee, they were 5 of their first 7 on third down conversions. They were starting to figure something out. I thought ETN looked as good as he's looked in a while. They made him the number 1 back this past week. So that keeps flip-flopping, but I'm not going to criticize it. They got him going a little bit. They seem to manage that. They got Brian Thomas going. They got Brenton Strange involved. I can't really criticize the offensive play callers and the offensive staff in this one. I thought they did a really nice job to put them in a situation to win against what is a quality defense, even if they haven't played as good as they did last year. And then the defense just can't do it. The offense did such a good job that they kept the defense off the field the entire first half.
Yeah, but once again, this is the testament of this team. Either your defense shows up and they try to have your back as much as possible, offense can't deliver. Offense shows up a little bit and the defense can't have their back. It's what this team is. And listen, once again, I think just that play right there is a microcosm of what the season's been. And the blame can fall on Ryan Nielsen, but listen, it's not rocket science. And it's not like I'm the king of X's and O's or anything. But I can put Casey on the board and tell him to draw a cover 2. I'm sure, Casey, you play Madden, you play NCAA football, right? It's one of the most basic zone coverages in all of football.
Yeah, I think we can get it done.
Yeah, I think we can get it done, exactly. So if Casey can do it, I can do it. Brent, I can teach you in 2 seconds. 2 safeties up top, stay deep, don't take the cheese on Braylon Allen. Enough said. I get the blame, and once again, I haven't made a lot of excuses this year for Ryan Nielsen. I was on board to start the season, and then I'd jump off in that ocean real quick. But this is one where it's what do you want him to do? It's cover 2. Stay deep.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's frustrating, man. Especially with the veteran. It's not like it's a young guy that's And once again, this goes back to Trent Baalke. This is a guy that you brought in here from a winning team, from a winning tradition to shape your team. And said guy on that play did Devin Lloyd 0 favors of helping him out.
Yeah. It is uncanny how much this team doesn't like each other. For a team that actually likes each other a lot.
Yeah.
This is like one of the closest teams you'll find, yet they don't help each other out on the field.
Forget practice. Doug, call Dr. Phil right now. Shad Khan, cut the checkbook. I don't care how much it is. Get Dr. Phil in there and let's put it all on the table. Let's hash some things out and see why we're not getting along or why we're not having each other's backs.
I don't get it.
Team bonding, Brent paintball. Let's go. Doug Peterson paintball. Make it happen.
We'll get into Aaron Rodgers and Brian Thomas Jr. as well. I mean, Brian Thomas. I've got this question for you about Brian Thomas Jr. What makes him so good to you? And a lot of people will say speed, of course, but like, why does it look so good? Why does it look so different? A lot of guys put up some numbers. I mean, listen, to be honest with you, his numbers are fantastic for a rookie and even for any receiver this year.
They're fantastic for anybody, Brent.
But they're not gaudy, is my point. They're not like, It's not like he's sitting on 1,500 yards at this point in the year. So,
but it's even more impressive the offense that he plays in.
Probably. So again, that might be part of the conversation. But why is it so easy to see he's good? You know, it's not just the numbers. I think it's the way it looks. We'll get into that a little bit coming up here. Let's take a time out. Brent Austen show on a Monday. 3 of them to go, baby. 3 of them left. And the countdown is on here in Jacksonville. You are watching Brent Austen show on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network, and thank goodness for that young man. They did get that right, didn't they? I mean, we got him. Yeah. We got him. Thank
Interesting.
you, BTJ.
Doing the Gator chomp, though, man. I thought that was an LSU guy. Interesting.
He's really a cool guy, too. A lot to like about Brian Thomas Jr. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austin Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network.
Jags Report live tonight. Foye Oluokun will join us from Jack's Beach location. Strings in Jack's Beach. We've had some fantastic crowds out there. Place has been hopping here in the month of December as it just opened right around Thanksgiving time. So looking forward to that. Also looking forward to just a few shows to go. Quite frankly. Looking forward
Brent's
to just
over
a few
this.
shows to go.
Brent's over it.
Yeah. So are they. So are they.
Isn't everybody?
We do have some guests lined up and stuff. We've got some plans scheduled tonight. Foye Oluokun, Trayvon Walker on Thursday at the Springfield location, and maybe working on a couple of other guests included over these next few weeks too. So we'll keep an eye on it. We're working on it for sure, and appreciate the guys that coming off to finish their commitment with us, including Foye tonight. Brent Martineau, Austin Lane, Casey Kurtz here on a Monday. Jags are 3-11 now. They lose 32-25 to the Jets, and seriously, it was an entertaining game. I mean, their Jags offense played pretty well overall, and that leads you to Brian Thomas Jr., who it was interesting to hear what you said about him, like them moving him all over the place. And when I hear that, and of course we see that, and this guy is just so much more than everybody said. And you go back to draft boards, you go back to draft commentary and draft analysis, and this is why we shock your market, and this is also why you take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. Not everybody's going to get it right, but nobody envisioned him. The knock on him was he runs one route, basically, right? Mm-hmm. Can he run the route tree? Can he do this? Can he do that? He can do it all. Some people, I think, started to question, because he's such a quiet guy, is he going to be able to get the playbook and things like that because he only ran the deep route at LSU? Well, we heard right away back in August, before he even caught a real football in a game, how good he was at that, how much he was getting the offense. And I remember Doug Peterson saying one time, I don't know where that came from. Like, I'm not sure why people say that, but that's not it. And now we're starting to see that kind of this evolution. And I also think what shows you that he's a good player is kind of what you hinted at. He's doing it with now a backup quarterback, right? Yeah. He's doing it as the only real threat in the offense right now. I mean, ETN was a threat yesterday, and Brenton Strange did a nice job, but you took your main threats are out of your offense, and he's the guy, and everybody knows it, and he's still getting the football. Pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and it was really cool to see them. Like, yesterday to me was the coming out party of, this is our guy. Like, we need to force feed him the ball. You've seen it a little bit in the past, but it was almost out of necessity because how the game was going, more than the script. More than saying, hey, this guy's special, let's get him the ball. And it's wild how they used him yesterday. It's all how they used Brian Thomas Jr. yesterday. And I'm not going to lie, like when the Jaguars drafted him, I figured he was going to be good. I was excited. Go back and check out one of my bold predictions. Brent going to be the fantasy king of this Jaguars team. Well, yeah, duh. I mean, that was kind of a no-brainer now at this point. But I didn't envision him being so great on these short to intermediate routes in open space and creating that separation. But Austen, he's really fast. Why wouldn't he be? Well, I don't know. Look at Xavier Worthy from the Kansas City Chiefs. I thought the Chiefs got Xavier Worthy, fastest guy whatever he ever ran at the 40-yard dash of the combine. Yeah. I'm like, oh, you put him in an Andy Reid offense, you're going to get him in space, and it's going to be game over. This guy's going to go for 15 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes will be the MVP again. Travis Kelce forgot all about you with Taylor Swift. It's not like that at all, right? Like, sometimes there is some growing pains. Sometimes just because you have the speed doesn't mean you're going to be the difference maker right away. But Brian Thomas Jr. is that guy. So whether it's the vision, whether it's the route running, whether it's the speed, or the combination of everything, the guy is starting to figure it out at a very, very young age in his career, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, I think, and this is okay. A lot of people will be like, oh, what took him so long? Why didn't they do it? Like we questioned them for a couple of weeks too. Like, okay, get him the football, and they finally did. Mm-hmm. It was like first play of the game. Remember, it was like a handoff to him. Okay, guys, why are we reminding you that you have a good player here to use, even though they're double teaming him? Why? Because that's what they do on their offensive scheme. They react to how the defense plays. Oh, you're going to take this guy away. We'll throw it to these guys instead. No, what they've done is a little bit, okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to get this guy the ball and create for him. Mm-hmm. So I think the staff did a nice job there. I also think this is one of those situations where you do let him settle into X role, not necessarily X receiver, just saying X role, and then evolve it from there throughout the course of the season. And they must feel comfortable now that that's in a good spot, and he looks comfortable evolving his game. So I think that maturation is okay, is my point. If you want to be, why did they do this from week 2 or week 3? You wouldn't do that in week 2 or 3 is the point. Yeah. And you also had other people that you were getting involved in the offense that no longer are there because they're on IR. But I think this just showcases his talents. I thought it was a very good offensive play call game by the Jags. I thought it was a well-coached game on offense. I really did. I thought they did a nice job because I've been killing them enough. I think it's worth acknowledging that. Now, it's not enough in the grand scheme of things, but to get 25 points out of this team, out of this outfit right now, I thought was pretty good on the heels of 10 points against the Tennessee Titans. They put Mac in a really good spot. So when you look at the list of what makes him so good, Brian Thomas Jr., what sticks out? Other than speed, everybody knows the speed. Mm-hmm. So then where do you go with it? I
mean, I think it comes down to feel for the game, right? I think when you look at guys like Devontae Adams, you look at guys, and it's not a really fair comparison to call him like a D-Hop in his prime, because D-Hop was more of a possession route runner, even though he does have speed more than just like a burner. But I just think Brian Thomas Jr., he has a feel for the game at college. Why? Because you ran just go routes and you just threw it up to him and go get it. That's a great feel. It's, you can take the top off. That's great. But what I think is slept on with Brian Thomas Jr. is because he is kind of more of the quiet dude. So maybe sometimes he gets lost in the shuffle, and especially you play on a team where the offense isn't really to the highest of standard. But I think it's the combination of, number one, his speed, but also just the feel and the confidence in himself to turn into a big gain every single time.
Yeah, that's a good call. I didn't know that's where you're going to go, but I do like that. I think he does. He's got a little savviness to him. I think at times on the bubble screens, and this is easy to say for a running back, and I was like, hey, man, go this way. Why don't you go this way?
Yeah.
But I think overall, I think he does show a savvy in space and the field and where he's at. And I think we've seen that on some close catches along the sideline, his ability to maneuver his body as well. And he's got this, like the guys say dog, right? But he does have that, which is really different from his personality outside the lines. His outside the lines personality is as mellow as can be, quiet as can be. And when he gets in there, man, he is turning it up a notch. He likes to compete, obviously. Mm-hmm. So it's just really good. And I just got to make sure he stays healthy. And where does it go from here as they build this offense really now around him, right? I mean, because as you go forward, now you're building an offense around him. And how does that change what you need going forward? Not in the running back room, obviously. You got your quarterback, but does that change Kirk, Gabe Davis, what you actually need in those other spots?
This is leading into my next question. And so you see this a little bit now with Minnesota. You've seen it. You saw it yesterday with Nico Collins, who, thank God for 2 touchdowns in my fantasy team, or else it would have been a rough day. But teams can kind of bully now and team up, gang up on just one receiver, right? Whether it's double teams, whether it's zone coverages to that side to take away the threat, right? New England always used to do this with Bill Belichick. They always made it a habit of, all right, if you beat us, but you're not going to beat us with your number one receiver or your number one go-to guy like they had with Travis Kelce when they played New England. So you see Brian Thomas Jr., and it's okay, he's all the Jaguars have right now. And granted, Evan Ingram next year hopefully comes back. Hopefully they keep him, and he comes back 100%. We'll see with Christian Kirk. We'll see with Gabe Davis. But it's another year for Christian Kirk, and a guy who right now is a little injury-prone. And with Gabe Davis, well, did we really see anything from him this season where it's all right, that's our 2 receiver. Do they have to shore things up more? Do they have to go attack more and maybe get another wide receiver to take some of the pressure that's definitely to come Brian Thomas Jr.'s way next year, because he's made a name for himself now, and that's kind of the thing about it. We're excited. Because we have a great guy now in Jacksonville at the wide receiver position, but the downside of that is, well, now he's making a name for himself, so next year he will be on every team's radar of trying to take him away. Are you confident with Gabe Davis? Are you confident with Christian Kirk to go, all right, those games when, Brian Thomas Jr. gets double-teamed, can you be Jordan Addison? Can you have the breakout game? Or do you need to maybe shore it up more in the draft and free agency?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think Duval Jags had earlier in the chat about McMillan, the kid from Arizona, the big guy. Mm-hmm. And my kid wants that guy too. He's like, go get him. And it's they are not going to pick a receiver in the first round again. There is, in my opinion, there's zero chance. Zero chance.
Come on, Brent. Have some fun here.
Oh, I'll have fun. I don't mind that, but they ain't going to have fun. There's zero chance that they are going to pick a receiver in the first round in back-to-back years. They hardly did it, ever before this past year. So I just don't see it. I love the idea of it. I get it. I get why that's fun, all this stuff. And the kid I'm talking about, right? The Arizona
Yeah, of course.
Kid.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, or maybe a second-round high pick, a la T. Higgins and Jamar Chase?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a second-round high pick?
Well, I would say if you go and start thinking about the second round, then maybe.
Yeah.
But that's not where the McMillan guy's going to
fall. No, I mean, obviously. But I'm saying, do you have to address it high in the draft?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, obviously, there's a lot to Gabe Davis you're stuck with at this moment, unless you just eat that thing, which nobody does that. You can obviously figure things out with Kirk or whatever that looks like. So you don't necessarily need a receiver.
But this is what I'm asking, though. Are you comfortable? Next year, Brent. Next year, you roll out Gabe Davis, you roll out Christian Kirk, you roll out Brian Thomas Jr. Are you confident that if they take Brian Thomas Jr. away, can somebody be the Jordan Addison to Justin Jefferson?
I would be with that. I mean, if they've got whoever they've got under contract right now, from an Ingram to a Kirk to a because I think Ingram belongs in this conversation just because he catches so many footballs.
Well, yeah, and see, I'm comparing this to Minnesota, right? Because to me, Minnesota, you take a quarterback in Sam Darnold. Sorry, Casey, but I didn't give any time of day to. Wasn't even in the realm of my mentions. Comes out and has a pretty damn good season, and right now has the Vikings playing a really good brand of football. All of a sudden, Justin Jefferson kind of goes quiet the past couple weeks. Doesn't matter because you have a guy by the name of Jordan Addison who can come in and kind of fill that role. They have Hawkinson as well, and Hawkinson is kind of a target monster and all this stuff, but what's made Minnesota so great really these past couple weeks has been Addison.
Yeah.
So the question is, can Kirk, can Gabe Davis be that Addison?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, if he can stay healthy.
Okay.
I don't know about Davis as much, all right? It's a little emptiness on Davis, but I think throughout his career, he's been a guy that can show up in games, right? So you're asking, not the whole season, but you're asking games like that. Yes. And Addison's kind of been a little inconsistent too for Minnesota. But, yeah, I think they do have those guys. In my opinion, I think those guys can do that. We just haven't seen a lot of football with all these guys on the field at the same time, unfortunately. And you do question, okay, Ingram's getting a little bit older. Is Gabe Davis enough? The bottom line is, again, you're kind of stuck there. So he's going to be here. Kirk is really the X factor. Do you go get younger and cheaper, or do you keep a guy who's got a rapport with Trevor and everything else? Do you keep this together? Keep in mind what we were talking about at the end of last year, even as this offense kind of fluttered down the stretch and they collapsed in general. We were still kind of vouching for Calvin Ridley to come back, have that continuity, and keep the band together. I think you could vouch for the same thing this offseason, to keep the band together and the continuity to be there and build more chemistry and have Trevor throwing the football to Brian Thomas Jr. for 17 games, hopefully, and have these guys stay healthy, hopefully. So now what Glenn's asking and what everybody else is asking, what everybody's so excited about a top 5 pick is Travis Hunter. Like, does a guy like Travis Hunter fill what you're talking about? You take him, though, as a top 5 guy, you're asking him to actually be 1 and 1A. Like, that's why it's hard to believe they would take Travis Hunter, at least as a wideout. Now, if they picture him as a corner that can also play a few snaps at wideout, that might be a different story.
Put him at safety, Brent. I might be able to play safety, too, with this team. Obviously, we need some safety help after,
a lot of people could play safety.
Last Sunday's performance. Yeah, I mean, I feel about Travis Hunter.
You're afraid of Travis Hunter because of the Jags.
Yes.
But what I would ask you, though, is Travis Hunter, the player, let's just assume Brian Thomas Jr. was on Minnesota right now, okay? How does he fit into what they potentially do, and where do you even figure him out? Because I'm getting a ton of mixed thoughts from, like, NFL people on where he is. Like, I think some teams might say, hey, we think you're a corner. Some teams might say, we think you're a receiver. And, of course, he's going to say, I think I'm a receiver because you know why? There's more money at that spot.
Right now there is, yeah, absolutely. No, for sure.
So what do you see him as, and how would he fit with what you're talking about in terms of the Addison, Justin Jefferson type?
I mean, he could definitely be an Addison, at wide receiver for sure. I mean, I think it would be like a nice complimentary to Brian Thomas Jr. because you kind of have – it's crazy how it is almost like a T. Higgins and Jamar Chase situation. Where T. Higgins, if you know his story, man, like, and I get he gets kind of a bad rap sometimes for the contract stuff, but more of a quiet dude. You have Jamar Chase, who's kind of like the, I don't want to say the diva, but going to give you the sound bites, going to give you, the flash on the field. I feel like T. Higgins more just kind of goes about and does his business, a la, like a Brian Thomas Jr. And I feel like Travis Hunter is the star, man. He has the star potential. He's going to carry a lot of new fans with him to Jacksonville if he was to be here. So, yeah, I mean, I think it would be fun, but where my fear comes in. Are you going to use him the right way? And are you going to use him on both sides of the ball? Because, and I get it, I think a lot of teams would want to do that, but there was a guy by the name of Jabril Peppers who had all the hype in the world too and wasn't really used the right way in a lot of teams and just kind of got bounced around the league because nobody could really figure out the Rubik's Cube that was Jabril Peppers. I don't want to see the same thing happen with Travis Hunter here in Jacksonville.
Yeah, it does get you excited. The idea of, like, I mean, I just shared that on social media. It's like, what do you think about Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter together? Ooh. And this is one, by the way, the owners had a lot of issues winning in Jacksonville. But if you're the owner, you're like, I want Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. in Jacksonville.
Sure.
Yeah. You make the pick.
I mean, that's money.
You might make the pick.
Yeah, that's money right there.
Now, that's not a very smart way to go about doing business on the football side, but it's almost like, yeah, that's what we're doing. But, my thought is the Jags are going to go with a big guy, right? Their weakness at times has been this physicality on both. They are just not good enough in the trenches. Again, there's some momentum for this offensive line. I will say that, but defensively, their interior just hasn't been good enough. And is that where they're going to go? Like, again, as a top 5 pick, they can go there. They can do a lot of different things. And the top 5 pick is usually a safer bet to go get one of the big fellas than it is to go get a guy like Travis Hunter or somebody like that. So I would be absolutely stunned at this moment if the Jags pick Travis Hunter. But I'm not telling you I would hate it. Like, I love it for a lot of reasons. I think he has edge to him, right? I think he's got swag to him. I think that can also be a problem down the road, but I'm willing to deal with it because I think they need a little bit more potential problems.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like, you could take him and maybe he's better suited. Like, I think, like, people, I mean, at least what I've been reading about him, like people think his ceiling is higher at corner than it is wide receiver.
I would agree with that too. I think that way.
But once again, maybe you take him here and maybe you don't use him properly, like I'm afraid of, and everything, and maybe you keep on losing, but at least you lose with some swag now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saysaying?
That's the part that would be
if you're going to lose with some swag.
Let's hear from Brian Thomas Jr. and give you a second to get it ready, Casey. But and other people. Here's the thing about this that I saw yesterday. I said this on our post-game show, and I have not seen this Austin in Jacksonville since Jalen.
Okay.
And I guess Trevor had a little bit of this early on and at times, but very few times in my 16 years I've seen this in Jacksonville, where you ask guys about another player and their facial expressions kind of tell you the story before their words do.
Okay.
Right? And when you're starting to ask about Brian Thomas Jr., whether you ask Mitch Morse, Antonio Johnson, Foye Oluokun, you ask Evan Ingram when he's on a show with you, you ask Trayvon Walker, any of these guys. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter their position, offense, defense, and they start to go, whoa. Mm. Right? I mean, that is unique. We haven't had that. We talk about the Jags need some blue chippers. The Jags have gotten beat by blue chippers twice this season that we know of at the very – actually, now this is the third time. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams beat them. Right? Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey beat them in week 1. In the Philly game, Saquon Barkley beat them. Like, these are blue chip guys that the Jags don't have making those kind of plays to win these football games. They've been beat 3 times by blue chip players, in my opinion. Well, this is their blue chip guy right now that we have. I mean, you hope there are other guys that are blue chippers, but right now the game impact blue chipper that you can see going forward is number 7. And listen to the response in the locker room when asked about him.
I was super excited because it caught me. I didn't know if I had it or not. So, I was super excited about both of them, really. I knew when I got the touchdown, I broke it. So it was just super exciting for me. It was a great moment.
Well, he already a problem for a lot of teams. When he on the field, you gotta know you better try to match up for him, because if not, he can, like I said, he can do whatever he want. When the ball in the air and you see something underneath it, we get up out of our seats just like everybody else.
He's had a heck of a season for a rookie, receiver, and not only here in Jacksonville, but in the NFL, and he can get better. But I'll tell you this: he's a good, humble kid that does work hard, and he has been a very, very big bright spot for our offense all season.
That was just some of the reaction. But again, go back to Antonio Johnson, and the line in there was, hey, when the ball goes up in the air and he's near it, we get out of our seats just like everybody else.
Yeah.
That's not too many guys are doing that in Jacksonville, quite frankly, over the years.
No, and listen, I'm not going to overhype Brian Thomas Jr. and put him in this pedestal yet. He still has a long ways to go, but it reminds me when I was in Detroit with Calvin Johnson, where it was must-see on the sidelines. Like, I don't care if you came off of a 10-play drive on defense, you're gassed, you're tired, you're getting oxygen. When Calvin Johnson's in the game, you stand up and you watch him because you know you're watching something special and something different. And once again, still has a long ways to go to get to that kind of caliber in Brian Thomas Jr., but, for a first-year run, doing pretty good for himself.
Yeah, I mean, 33rd team's all over him. He's getting a lot of love by them. BTJ is one of the 3 players more than 900 receiving yards on less than 100 targets this season. The other 2, Terry McLaurin and A.J. Brown. Let's see what else we got. Notable performances. He's on that list. There was another stat I wanted to get on the.
By the way, do you have to white balance every time you interview Brian Thomas Jr. with that necklace, man? Oh, Dude's got some ice now.
He has been.
He's got some ice.
The last couple weeks ago was the earrings.
Yeah.
Like the Jags have
the white
really. Balance. I don't know what jewelry store they're shopping at in Jacksonville, but that jewelry store is making some money the last couple of months.
Not really. No,
because they have been purchasing.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen that much bling in the Jags locker room in a while. Can I say that?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Okay.
You crushed it.
I'm glad to see the checks are cashing, even though the games are being lost.
Well, listen, the checks do cash.
Good.
They do cash.
I'm happy for them for that.
They've been cashing for a long time around here without the wins coming.
Good.
All right.
Like it. Glad the jewelry store's staying in business.
And it just shows you that how much they cash.
Hey, Casey, support local business, man.
Listen, I'm
on,
all for
dude.
Brian Thomas Jr. wearing whatever he wants. He's earned that right. But
Yeah.
if other people are going into the jewelry store, they should be like, hey,
Yeah.
we can't serve you until you win. That's all I'm saying.
I was actually thinking
We're
like
trying to help you from yourself.
the money is real in the NFL because even a guy like Antonio Johnson, who was like what a 5th round pick, I thought he had something that looked pretty expensive on.
Nice.
And I was like, dang man, I mean 5th round pick money is okay, as you know.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
better
yeah.
now than it was.
Yeah,
when he played.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure he's gonna probably get his player performance bonus too.
so there's no lockout. Hey, one more thing this is the other one, right? Wide receivers with more receiving yards than Brian Thomas Jr. This was like as of yesterday, like afternoon, and Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, C.D. Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Terry McLaurin. That was it.
Yeah, it's wild.
I mean, that's the thing. Like we're talking about rookie, but we're talking about league wide.
We're talking about this Jaguars offense.
And talking about this offense. I had one other thought, and somebody
You mind saying it again, Brent? Say this one more time, please.
Chase Jefferson.
Well, and just go slow. So Jamar Chase, Cincinnati's offense pretty good. Like they're not winning, good offense.
they got their quarterback.
Correct.
Jefferson,
Yeah, obviously.
Lamb.
Yeah, I mean,
Have another quarterback in their offense, just okay.
Okay.
Judy has been hot with Winston. It's
That's
really
wild,
like the
yeah.
last month.
Yeah, he's kind of the anomaly.
And McLaurin, who's
Yeah,
obviously got
pretty good
Jaden
offense
Daniels
with
played pretty well in that
Kingsbury.
offense, right? So yeah, I mean, I would say Brian Thomas Jr. is a little bit more like C.D. Lamb and Judy in this conversation of quarterbacks and all that stuff. But why Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, right, are offensive rookie of the year, like heavyweight contenders? Why isn't Brian Thomas Jr. being talked about a little bit more? And is that strictly just because they're 3-11?
I mean, I think it has something to do with it. Also, the quarterback is the glorified position. But yeah, when you couple playing wide receiver on a team that's won 3 games, it's not a good look.
Yeah.
I would also say for Daniels, the Commanders were still supposed to suck.
Yeah,
They're a playoff team.
Yeah, well, that's why I said both of those teams, I think I mentioned, both have 9 wins. I think Denver's got 9 wins now, too. So, I mean, that says the story, right? If the Jags had 6 wins, 7 wins, and they're in the mix right now, you might be able to make the case at what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because he's going to put up some ridiculous numbers, obviously, in this rookie season. That's really the key right now. Stay healthy the last 3 games. See how much he can get to. He's 44 yards shy of 1,000 yards on the season.